From the day you were born, society has programmed you to equate action with progress. You have been told to hustle, to grind, to take the initiative, and to make things happen. You believe that if you are sitting still, you are losing. You believe that the person who moves the fastest and strikes the first blow is the one who claims the crown. This is the philosophy of the prey. It is the frantic, panicked ideology of the amateur. The amateur feels anxiety, and because they cannot sit with that anxiety, they convert it into kinetic energy. They send the double text. They launch the premature product. They object to every minor slight. They constantly adjust their strategy, tweaking, moving, sweating, and burning calories. The warlord watches the amateur run in circles, and the warlord smiles, because the warlord knows the darkest, most terrifying secret of power. Most victories are not won, they are conceded. Most enemies are not destroyed by your brilliance. They are destroyed by their own exhaustion, their own arrogance, and their own unforced errors. Sun Tzu said, "The good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat and then waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy." To put yourself beyond defeat requires absolute structural integrity. To wait requires a discipline that borders on the inhuman. Today, we are going to teach you the weapon of strategic patience. We are going to teach you how to master the void of non-action. We will show you how to let the enemy dig their own grave, how to use the physics of time to shatter their composure, and why absolute strategic dominance is always superior to frantic risk mitigation. You are going to learn how to stop hunting the prey and start letting the prey walk willingly into your trap. Welcome to the Art of Conquest. Part 1. The physics of the mistake, the entropy of action. Every action requires energy. Every movement creates exposure. When you swing a sword, your ribcage opens. When you launch a campaign, your supply lines stretch. When you tell a lie, you create a narrative debt that you must eventually pay. The amateur does not understand this. The amateur thinks that taking action is free. The warlord understands the law of entropy. The warlord knows that the longer an enemy remains in motion, the higher the mathematical probability that they will make a catastrophic error. Imagine two cars on a slick, rain-soaked highway. One driver is aggressive, weaving through traffic, accelerating, tailgating, desperate to get ahead. The other driver holds the wheel steady, maintaining speed, holding the lane. The aggressive driver thinks he is winning because he is passing cars, but he is burning his brakes. He is testing the friction of his tires on the wet asphalt. He is multiplying his risk with every lane change. The master driver does not need to run the aggressive driver off the road. The master driver simply maintains his lane and watches. Eventually, the aggressive driver hits a patch of water, overcorrects, and slams into the concrete barrier. You do not need to cause the car crash. You just need to be the immovable object observing it. When you face an enemy who is aggressive, angry, or desperate, your instinct is to match their energy. If they scream, you want to scream back. If they launch a smear campaign, you want to launch a counter campaign. But when you do this, you enter their arena. You adopt their chaotic physics. You expose your own ribs. Strategic patience dictates that when the enemy is thrashing, you become completely still. You let them burn their fuel. You let them exhaust their ammunition. You let them expose the full spectrum of their strategy while you expose absolutely nothing. Part 2. The timing of the kill, the architecture of seasons. Patience is not passive. Patience is not weakness. The amateur thinks waiting means doing nothing because you are afraid. The warlord's waiting is active. It is a coiled spring. It is the hover of the falcon before the dive. There is an ancient fundamental science to timing. Think of it as the invisible pillars of fate that govern human behavior. Every person, every corporation, and every empire has seasons of absolute strength and seasons of inevitable collapse. If you attack an enemy during their season of strength, when their resources are full, when their allies are loyal, when their morale is high, you will be fighting an uphill battle against the elements. The warlord reads the timeline. The warlord calculates the elements at play. You do not try to extinguish a raging forest fire in the middle of a dry summer wind. You let it burn. You contain the perimeter. You wait for the winter snows. Your enemy will have a season of bad luck. They will overextend their finances. Their key employees will quit. Their partner will leave them. Their health will falter. These moments of structural weakness are inevitable. It is the inescapable cycle of human existence. Strategic patience is the discipline of withholding your strike until the enemy enters their season of decay. When they are weak, distracted, and internally fractured, that is when you unleash hell. What would have taken 10,000 men and a year of siege warfare during their summer will take one man in a single match during their winter. Part 3, the cross-examination, giving them the rope. Let us move to the battlefield of the intellect, the boardroom, the negotiation table, the legal dispute. In any arena of conflict, the amateur tries to win the argument by talking. The amateur wants to prove how smart they are. But if you look at the veteran of the courtroom, the master who has taken 50 cases to a jury and seen every trick in the book, you will notice something terrifying. The master does not object to every minor infraction. The master does not interrupt the witness every time they tell a lie. The master sits back and lets the witness talk. Why? Because a lie is a fragile, complicated architecture. To maintain a lie, the liar must remember every detail, perfectly aligned under the pressure of the spotlight. When you interrupt a liar, you save them. You give them a moment to catch their breath. You correct their course. Strategic patience in conversation is the art of giving them enough rope to hang themselves. When your enemy makes an aggressive claim, or a ridiculous demand, or a bold-faced lie, do not attack it. Encourage it. That is fascinating. Please tell me more about how you arrived at that valuation. I want to make sure I understand your position perfectly. Can you elaborate on that timeline? You act as a mirror. You let them talk. Because the ego craves the sound of its own voice, the enemy will keep talking. And as they talk, they will wander off the paved road of their prepared script and into the treacherous swamp of improvisation. They will contradict themselves. They will make a claim that violates the laws of physics. They will reveal a piece of confidential information they were supposed to hide. You sit in the silence, cataloging their errors. You do not strike when they make the first mistake. You wait until they have built a house of cards so high and so unstable that pulling out a single card brings the entire structure crashing down on their head. Part 4, dominance versus risk mitigation. The trap of the shield. We must address a fatal flaw in modern corporate and personal strategy, the obsession with risk mitigation. The amateur is terrified of getting hit. The amateur spends 90% of their energy building shields, drafting defensive emails, worrying about what the competition might do, and trying to preemptively block every possible negative outcome. This is a loser's game. When you are constantly mitigating risk, you are allowing the enemy, or the fear of the enemy, to dictate your movements. You are playing defense. You are reacting. The warlord does not mitigate risk. The warlord prioritizes strategic dominance. What is the difference? Risk mitigation tries to stop the enemy from drawing their sword. Strategic dominance lets the enemy draw their sword, lets them swing it, sidesteps the blade by an inch, and then decapitates them while they are off balance. If you have an employee who is subtly undermining you, the risk mitigator will try to micromanage them, have endless feedback sessions, and try to prevent the employee from doing damage. This is exhausting. The warlord gives the toxic employee a high-stakes, highly visible project with enough autonomy that they can either succeed brilliantly or fail spectacularly. The warlord waits. The toxic employee, given enough rope and blinded by their own arrogance, will inevitably cut a corner, alienate a client, or sabotage the deliverable. When the catastrophic failure happens, the warlord steps in. There is no debate. There is no HR mediation. There is a clean, undeniable execution. The cancer is removed permanently. Strategic patience requires the stomach to let small fires burn so that you can trap the arsonist. Part 5. The execution in the wild, simulations. Let us apply this lethal waiting game to the specific arenas of your life. Simulation 1. The competitor's smear campaign. A rival business or a jealous peer starts spreading rumors about you. They are trying to provoke a public war. They want you to get down in the mud with them, because in the mud, everyone looks dirty. The amateur's reaction, panic. Draft a press release. Go on social media and post a furious defense. Attack the rival's character. Result: you look guilty. You validate their existence. You tie your brand to their drama. The warlord's patience. You do absolutely nothing. You do not acknowledge them. You proceed with your mission as if they do not exist. The rival, starved of your reaction, will become desperate. They will escalate the rumors. They will become increasingly unhinged and ridiculous in their claims. Eventually, the public or the market will realize that the rival is obsessed, unstable, and fighting a ghost. The rival destroys their own credibility through sheer, desperate volume. You win by default, your hands completely clean. Simulation 2, the romantic ultimatum. You are in a negotiation of power with a partner. They drop an ultimatum. If you don't do X, I am leaving. They are using the threat of absence to force your compliance. The amateur's reaction, panic, fear of loss. Wait, let's talk about this. I'll change. Don't go. Result: you have handed them the remote control to your nervous system. They will use the ultimatum every time they want something for the rest of your life. The warlord's patience. You execute the void. You look at them. You nod slowly. I understand. If you feel that leaving is the best decision for you, I won't stop you. I will help you pack. You do not yell. You do not beg. You open the door for them. What happens? You have called their bluff. They expected a struggle. They met a vacuum. If they actually leave, you have successfully removed a manipulator from your life. But in 90% of cases, the moment you agree to their terms of departure, they will panic. They didn't want to leave. They wanted to control you. Because you refuse to react, their entire strategy collapses. They will backtrack. They will suddenly want to work it out. You have established absolute dominance through the power of non-resistance. Simulation 3, the deal on the edge. You are negotiating a massive contract. The other side is playing hardball. They send over a revised term sheet that guts your margins with a note, "Take it or leave it. We need an answer by Friday." The amateur's reaction, agonize over it all week. Call them on Thursday trying to compromise. "Can we meet in the middle?" Result: you show weakness. They know you need the deal. You get squeezed. The warlord's patience. You read the email on Tuesday. You do not reply. Wednesday passes. Silence. Thursday passes. Silence. Friday morning arrives. The enemy's anxiety is spiking. They are wondering if they push too hard. They are wondering if you have another buyer. Friday at 4:55 p.m., you reply, "The terms are unacceptable. Let me know if you decide to revert to the original framework. Have a good weekend." You close your laptop, you force them to sit in the agony of uncertainty for 4 days, and then you drop the guillotine 5 minutes before the deadline, ruining their weekend. By Monday morning, they will be the ones calling you to compromise. Part 6, the internal alchemy, mastering the tremor. Why is strategic patience so rare? Because it is agonizing to execute. When the enemy attacks, your amygdala floods your body with adrenaline. Your heart rate hits 120 beats per minute. Your hands shake. Your biological programming is screaming at you to fight or flight. Sitting still in the face of an attack goes against millions of years of human evolution. To become the warlord, you must train your nervous system to endure the tremor. You must decouple your internal state from the external chaos. When the crisis hits, you must visualize yourself stepping out of your body. You are no longer the target. You are the scientist observing the experiment. You look at the aggressive email. You do not read it as a threat. You read it as a data set. The subject is using fear tactics. The subject is setting artificial deadlines. The subject is bluffing. When you intellectualize the attack, you neutralize the emotion. You must build a delay mechanism into your life. Never answer an angry email within 24 hours. Never sign a contract in the room it was presented. Never respond to an insult in the moment it was spoken. Then build the moat of time between their stimulus and your response. In that moat, the enemy's power drowns and your strategy is born. Conclusion: the throne of stillness. The world is a noisy, chaotic, desperate place. Everyone is trying to prove they exist by making as much noise as possible. Everyone is swinging wildly in the dark, hoping to hit something. You do not need to swing wildly. You are the master of the long game. You are the architect of your own timeline. You let the amateurs exhaust themselves. You let them build their glass houses and throw their stones. You watch them run their engines into the red line until the pistons melt and the gears shatter. And when the smoke clears and the enemy is lying on the ground, breathless, exposed, and utterly defeated by their own frantic incompetence, you finally stand up. You draw your blade, and you take the crown without breaking a single drop of sweat. This is the power of the void. This is the terror of the unseen strike. Wait for the mistake. It is always coming. This is the way of the art of conquest. On this channel, we cover a range of topics like the one in this video. If you enjoy this type of content, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, we may never see each other again. See you again soon.